Namaste World Racer, Sabine and Roger here. Let's watch 4 great ideas from Hinduism from the YouTube channel The School of Life.
Yeah. And if you like Sanātana Dharma, make sure you hit that like button so the whole world knows.
Beautiful.
Even if we have no interest at all in becoming a Hindu, Hinduism offers us at least 4 fascinating ideas. 1. Look forward to death.
What?
Hinduism is hugely radical in suggesting that there is nothing especially noble or interesting about being alive. Once we look at matters dispassionately, a lot of what we have to go through is misery and suffering. We need, with great effort, to grow up, to assume responsibilities, to master a profession, to have a family, to take our place in societies full of backbiting and hypocrisy, to watch those we love get ill, and eventually to succumb to old age ourselves. To think highly of life is, through a Hindu lens, a fundamental intellectual error. As Hinduism sees it, our real purpose is to be done with life forever. That is the true summit of existence.
Yeah.
Hinduism reverses the Western equation. The sinful and blinkered are forced to live forever. The righteous and awakened are privileged enough to be able to die. If we are not careful, if we do not show sufficient mercy and imagination towards others, we may well, Hinduism suggests, be subjected to the ultimate punishment. We will have to carry on into eternity. The symbol of this ghastly ongoingness is the 8-spoked wheel of samsara,
Oh, is
which
it?
evokes the pitiless and unceasing nature of life,
Oh.
to which we are committed unless we take a disciplined series of averting actions, which together comprise the central components of Hindu ethics. Hinduism does not suggest that we will carry on forever in our own bodies. According to the process of samsara, we are reborn into a succession of different outward envelopes, as each example is eroded away and disintegrated by time. Because samsara is at work across the whole animal kingdom, we might find our enduring soul, Atman, transmigrates at our death into the body of a woodlouse, a pelican, or a house spider, though we might also be reborn as a pediatric nurse or the president. What determines the quality of the migration is the degree of karma or virtue that we have accrued in our lives. Among the many reasons why we might have to be kind to others is an awareness that unkindness might wind us up having to suffer a cycle or two of life as a cockroach or a naked mole rat. The suspicion that life is constantly painful and anxious is one that we largely have to bear in a very lonely way in the philosophies of the West. In those of the East, pessimism is ennobled and takes centre stage. We are permitted to feel weary and amply dissatisfied. We have, without quite knowing it, been alive since the start of creation, and it is untenably exhausting and frustrating. The trick, and the true prize, will be to be good and wise enough to learn to die once and for all. 2. Rejoin cosmic totality. For Hindus, the way to step off the treadmill of eternal existence is to realize that despite many appearances to the contrary, however paradoxical or absurd the idea might sound, we and the universe are in truth one. From the earliest age, we tend to assume the very opposite. It seems self-evident that we are one kind of thing, and the tree over there, the relative over here, the clouds in the sky, the monkey on the parapet, and the river winding its way to the sea belong to quite different categories. Yet Hinduism insists that our belief in difference belongs ultimately to a realm of Maya, or illusion. If we look more deeply into the nature of things, we stand to discover the remarkable unity of all elements. Unlike what appearances imply, everything we can see and experience around us belongs to the same life force. The leaves unfurling on the tree, the child learning to read, the earthworm digging its tunnels, the lava bubbling from the earth, all belong to a single unitary power, which only egoistic prejudice has hitherto prevented us from acknowledging as one. Most of our pain, Hinduism argues, arises from an overeager attachment to the difference between ourselves and the rest of the world. We pay inordinate attention to who has slightly more money or respect than we do. We are constantly humiliated by people and events that don't seem to honor our sense of uniqueness. But in a process known as moksha, or liberation, we can throw off the veil of illusion that works to separate us from the universe and can start to identify with cosmic totality. It no longer matters exactly where we end and others begin. Everything belongs to the same whole that we have mistakenly and unnecessarily carved up into parts.
Beautiful.
There is a little less reason to grasp, to be puffed up, to be proud, or to become embittered. We can survey the course of our lives and of our societies with calm indifference. We can cease to identify happiness with the working out of our will upon the world, and can take in with compassion and serenity whatever destiny throws our way. We enjoy paripuma brahmanabhava, the experience of oneness with Brahman, the principle of all things. Once we have let go of our own ego like this, we may have a few more years left to live, but we can be sure that eventually we will not need to keep returning. Constant rebirth is the fate of those who cleave too tightly to their own selves. By contrast, those who have learnt to surrender can, at their demise, merge with the universe and will never need to suffer the indignities of individual life again.
Let's merge.
3. Don't forget money. We might expect that a religion devoted to spiritual enlightenment would have scant concern for money and possessions. But Hinduism surprises and challenges us by suggesting that what it calls artha, or a concern for material prosperity, has a place within a wise life. Hinduism is not directing us towards crass materialism. It doesn't want to exhaust us with overly rich foods or attention-seeking displays of wealth. But it is aware that many good and elevated things require a degree of financial support in order to go well. One won't be able to undertake spiritual exercises unless one is able to take a considerable amount of time off from practical duties every day. Meditation on nothingness can be substantially assisted by having a servant or two to take care of the laundry and the housekeeping. Hindus traditionally direct their hopes for material comfort to Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity. One of the most popular of all Hindu deities, she is typically represented holding 2 lotus flowers that speak of spiritual liberation as well as material good fortune. She is usually accompanied by at least 1 elephant, a symbol of power and strength, and a swan, an animal that is at home both in the air and in the water, and thereby speaks of an ability to combine competence in the material and spiritual realms. Lakshmi understands, and would never condemn, one's appetite for a better house or a more high-paying job. Her role isn't to make us feel guilty about wanting more wealth. It is to remind us that the true point of money is, in the end, to enable us to forget about money. 4. Don't turn against sex. We have come to expect very little in the way of encouragement or sympathy in relation to sex from religions. At best, a blind eye. At worst, a constant hounding and reminder of the evils of the flesh. But Hinduism surprises us. It made the remarkable step of placing sexual fulfillment, karma, among the 4 purusharthas, or aims of human life, alongside dharma, morality, artha, prosperity, and moksha, spiritual liberation. Hinduism's respect for sex was rooted in a particular understanding of what lies behind our erotic feelings. These do not stem, as has so often been alleged, from a base animal impulse. They are a means by which we can sense the unity of the universe. Normally, we live beneath a veil of illusion, which persuades us of the separateness of all things, bodies included. But our sexual desires push us to break down the barriers between ourselves and others. We might colloquially say that we are turned on, but through a Hindu lens, at the core of our excitement, is the sense that we are breaking down the illusion of separateness and taking a small but important step towards oneness, with what we can, without exaggeration, following the religion, term the universe.
Thank you, the School of Life, for this neat little video.
So what do you think? Look forward to death.
First chapter, look forward to death. Well, the way I learned it is look forward to once you reach a certain kind of level of consciousness, once you're purified a lot, you lived a virtuous life, etc., then you can really look forward to death, because there's the chance that you have a higher rebirth than before.
Yeah, so I think it's not too clear what is meant by look forward to death, so then we need to analyze and contemplate. And if you study Sanātana Dharma at all, it's talking about reincarnation, and in the highest sacred texts, like the Bhagavad Gita, for example, it's talking about that we're immortal spiritual beings, we're souls, right? And we're temporarily manifested in these physical bodies. So in actuality, we never really die anyway. So looking forward to death is understanding that we're just transmigratory beings, and then we're reincarnated into another life form. So holding that in mind, and then we know that our next rebirth is going to be dependent upon our karma and our actions performed throughout this lifetime. So then we're using this lifetime by being aware of the cycle, and that death is approaching, and the time of death can be at any time. So we're monitoring our behavior, our mode of material nature, and we're behaving in according with that teaching, that reality, that, okay, we got to behave accordingly. So then, it directs all of our behaviors, like a guiding light to be aware of death. And then not in the sense that looking forward to it, like hoping to die right now or wanting to commit suicide or anything like that. But no, we're not afraid of death. Right? Is more aptly put, I think. It's like there's no fear of death there, because we're conducting ourselves accordingly, and then we understand everything. We're holding a higher intention in mind, and we're seeking liberation, moksha, whether we attain it or not. We're aware of it. At the time of death, we're focused on a higher deity. So, it's very, very beneficial to be aware that we can die at any moment. So you live like you are dying.
Chapter 2, the cosmic totality. Ooh.
Yeah, so these all tie together, right? So understanding through the teachings, this moksha and liberation, and what does that mean, right? So it's transcending the dualistic nature, the separate self, the ego, right? So we're trapped in these bodies, and then we perceive through this illusory perception, and we're perceiving ourselves as separate from everything else, but in reality, we're part of the one infinite divine manifestation. There's only one source of absolutely everything, and everything manifesting is part of it, right? So there's a totality there. And the goal of human life is to merge back into the true self, the higher self, which is one with the divine, right? Whether you believe it as a duality or a non-duality, that's entirely beyond our limited ego minds to comprehend and understand. So we're holding on to there is an absolute truth. Whether that truth is separate from creation or embedded within it or both, right? We can't really know that until we are enlightened. So we're understanding that some things are beyond our capacity to understand, but there still is a goal and a purpose, right? There is a higher self that we are basically cut off from until we're enlightened, until moksha. We got to behave accordingly and then understand the process and then work towards that. By being and living according to these most high teachings, right?
Beautiful. Chapter 3. Don't forget the money.
Don't forget about the money. Yeah, so this was something that we learned just on our spiritual journey, and in general is that money is a tool, right? Just like everything else, we don't have to, and I see some people who do get spiritual, right? And they want to renounce everything, and money is the source of all evil, and on and on and on. So this flips it basically and is saying that, no, money is just another expression of the divine. I love that picture of Mother Lakshmi, right? And then with the elephant in the background is like spouting money. Gold coins are shooting out of its nose, and then even the vase dumping out money, right? So it's this prosperity. And then I didn't know even about the swan represents
Beautiful.
about being in the sky and the water. So I loved that analogy. So being at home in the spiritual reality and in the material existence at the same time. So when we're starting to climb the levels of consciousness, then we can start to behave that way with this equanimity that there's nothing really to accept or reject, including money. It's all how we use it, right? So there's nothing wrong with having this, abundance, but at the same time, we're understanding that it's flowing through us, and then we could be more generous, and on, and use it for the purpose of the previous 2 points, right?
Yeah.
So we're aware that we're going to die, so we're not really claiming ownership, even though we can be comfortable, which helps us in our spiritual practice as well, right? Great.
So our focus is not on the money to seek it, but if it comes to you, if you have it, it's a good sign. It's
and you can
use it wisely.
Especially if you're using your job or your career, to be of benefit, and then you're surrendering your actions onto God, onto the divine. So you're being of service, because every industry needs workers. You need to be we need doctors and engineers and lawyers and any other trades workers. We all got to perform our duty, our dharma, and then we earn from that, and then we use that money, appropriately.
Nice. Chapter 4, don't turn against sex.
Yeah, so we see this, it's very prominent still in Western religions, that there's just this defilement and of the body, right? Where some people are seeing the body as, vile, and impure, and especially in regards to sex, and then this lust that arises in the mind. But at the same time, we've got to understand that we're part of this cosmic manifestation, and it's very much a creation. And you look in nature, all sorts of beings are, having intercourse in order for the species to evolve and advance and grow and not die out. So it's part of divinity itself. So we're seeing ourselves, instead of, being against the body and how vile and evil it is, we're understanding the divinity within these bodies, especially when you get into the higher, teachings of what Shiva and Shakti represent, for example. There's a cosmic unity there, right? And that's really what it's about. So when you're picking a partner, a spiritual partner, a marriage, husband and wife, they're really merging into one. And then we've kind of lost that a lot in the West with all the divorce rates. But we know that that's not the case in India. The divorce rate is much, much, much lower. So this understanding that whatever's happening is temporary, the time of death is approaching. So what's important? We've got to work out our differences and then remain in this state of union, right? Yeah. So then even connecting, sexually, so not being, perverse about it and lustful and desiring other women or men. No, you're staying committed and connected, to each other. And at the same time, the pleasurable nature of sex is not something to shy away from. It's right in there, the Kama Sutra, right? So, but at the same time, you're not indulging it. It has its place, right?
Yeah.
It's not like an indulgent and an infatuation and this lustful thing that takes over or causes grief in the relationship. It's about being united, but at the same time, focusing on the spiritual journey. All right, thanks so much for joining us for this fascinating video. Let us know what you think down in the comments. And remember, the whole reason that we're learning about Sanātana Dharma is to raise ourselves
and raise the beautiful, perfect world. Thank you so much, everyone. We love you.
Peace.